It was a rainy night when I started my shift as a rideshare driver. The streets were slick with water, and the glow of the streetlights reflected off the wet pavement. I had been driving for hours, picking up passengers and dropping them off, trying to make enough money to cover my bills. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until I got a new ride request. The pickup location was in a quiet part of town, near an old abandoned gas station. As I pulled up, I saw a lone figure standing in the rain. They were dressed in dark clothing, their hood pulled low over their face. I couldn't make out any details, but something about them felt off. I hesitated for a moment before unlocking the doors. "For Alex?" I called out, confirming the name on the app. The figure nodded silently and slid into the back seat. They didn't speak, didn't acknowledge me beyond that small movement. Just sat there, staring straight ahead. I shrugged it off and started the ride. "Long night?" I asked, trying to make small talk. No response. The silence felt heavy, unnatural. Most people at least mumbled a response, but this passenger remained completely still. My eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, but all I could see was darkness under the hood. As I drove through the empty streets, the unease in my chest grew. The air inside the car felt thick, almost suffocating. I turned up the heat, thinking maybe the rain had made the air too damp, but the coldness persisted. A few times, I glanced back in the mirror, but the passenger hadn't moved. They just sat there, staring. Not out the window, not at their phone. Just staring straight ahead, unblinking. I checked the app. The destination was an old residential street, one I wasn't too familiar with. It was a quiet area, lined with houses that had seen better days. The kind of place where the streetlights flickered and the roads had cracks, filled with weeds. "Almost there," I muttered, more to myself than to my silent passenger. When I pulled up to the address, I turned slightly in my seat. Here we are. Silence. I frowned and looked back. The seat was empty. My heart stopped. My breath caught in my throat. The door hadn't opened. I hadn't heard any movement. There was no possible way the passenger could have gotten out without me noticing. I whipped around fully, scanning the back seat. Nothing. Just the dark fabric of the seat, untouched. Shaking, I checked the rearview mirror again, half expecting to see them still sitting there, staring at me. But the car was empty. A chill ran down my spine. I reached for my phone, my hands trembling, and opened the rideshare app to check the ride details. The request was gone. No record of a pickup. No record of a passenger named Alex. My breathing grew shallow as I switched to my car's dash camera. My fingers fumbled as I rewound the footage, my pulse pounding in my ears. There it was. The moment I had pulled up to the abandoned gas station. The hooded figure stepping into my car. And then, nothing. The footage showed me driving. The empty backseat behind me. No passenger, no movement. Just me, talking to myself, reacting to someone who wasn't there. I felt sick. My stomach twisted, and my skin went cold. I had driven an empty car to an address that didn't exist. A soft breath echoed in the silent car. It wasn't mine. Slowly, I looked up at the rearview mirror, and I saw them. The hood had slipped back, revealing a pale, lifeless face. Eyes black as the void. A twisted, gaping mouth frozen in an expression of silent horror. My blood turned to ice. I spun around, but the backseat was empty. The car engine stuttered. The dashboard flickered. My breath came in short gasps as I reached for the door handle, desperate to escape. Then a whisper, right next to my ear. "Drive." I slammed my foot on the gas, speeding away from that cursed place, my heart hammering in my chest. The whispers didn't stop. They filled the car, murmuring, chanting, growing louder until I could barely think. The temperature dropped, and my breath came out in visible puffs of air. I drove blindly, not caring where I was going, just needing to get away. When I finally found myself back in a well-lit part of town, the voices stopped. The weight in the air lifted. I pulled over, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. My entire body trembled. I forced myself to check the back seat once more. Empty. The time on the dashboard was wrong. I had lost 2 hours. I deleted the rideshare app that night. I never drove for them again. But sometimes, when I'm alone in my car, I still feel it. That heavy silence, the cold presence in the back seat. And sometimes, in the dead of night, when I check my rearview mirror, I see a shadow staring back at me. The nightmare started soon after that night. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart hammering as whispers echoed in my ears. Every time I sat in my car, I felt like I wasn't alone. Shadows flickered at the edge of my vision, just out of reach. My radio would cut out suddenly, replaced by a low, static-filled voice murmuring my name. One night, I came home late and found muddy footprints leading from my car to my front door. I lived alone. My heart pounded as I followed them inside, but my apartment was empty. At least I thought it was. I locked every door, turned on every light, but the feeling of being watched never faded. Then came the knocking. It started around 3 a.m., a soft rhythmic tap on my bedroom window. I lived on the second floor. There was no way someone could be outside. My stomach twisted as I forced myself to look. Nothing, just darkness. I barely slept after that. Every night, the knocking returned, growing louder, more insistent. My reflection in the mirror began to look off. My eyes seemed darker, my face unfamiliar, as if something else was staring back at me. One evening, I got a text from an unknown number. "Are you alone?" I blocked it immediately, but the messages kept coming. "Check your back seat." I was in my apartment at the time. My car was parked outside. My phone buzzed again. A photo. It was taken from inside my car. The back seat was full of shadows, but in the center, a pair of black eyes stared directly at the camera. I moved out of town the next day, sold the car, changed my number. But some things you can't run from. Some things follow you no matter how far you go. And late at night, when I least expect it, I still hear it. The whisper in my ear. Drive. If you love real horror stories and want more spine-chilling tales like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notifications so you never miss a terrifying story that will keep you up at night. Until next time, drive safe and always check your back seat.